Yeah, I was just on the voices that people hear online, or the voices that are spoken online, and I was just thinking, well, what do people want to hear online? And there was with the massive video, Susan Ball video off Who's Got Talent that blew up, now over 300 million views online. One of the video data collecting websites, so this isn't just off YouTube, this is off many other video sites on the internet. About the time Susan Ball's video blew up, they gave a list of the top 20 online videos that have ever been watched, and only one of those was kind of user-generated. The other 19 were from professional production, Susan Ball being Britain's Got Talent, and the only one that was user-generated was a little boy and who was about 4, and his 2-year-old biting his finger, and him saying, ow. So in terms of what people are listening to, people are wanting to listen to, still again, kind of the mainstream media stuff, but obviously through the online. So obviously the internet gives voice to anybody, as long as, and obviously the costs of getting online are going lower and lower, which means more people can engage and have a voice. We're just wanting to question, what is it actually that the masses are actually listening to online? And it seems to still be the mainstream stuff, so maybe that was something to throw. And another question, we might get to it later, is can you truly have an online community? A lot of the online communities I've been engaged with have wanted to meet offline and have met. So Flickr user groups in different cities, they meet offline, and they in a central place in their city. And so obviously I'm not involved in Second Life, but again there are people from Second Life here who have come probably excited to actually physically meet other people in Second Life. So in terms of engaging with community and kind of that whole thing around community being a place of belonging, can that really happen online with no physical meetings? And with the rise of kind of online video, so you can actually see the person, is it becoming more able to have kind of online communities where you can actually see someone's eyes, whereas in the last years we couldn't. So I'm just wanting to raise that question really.
2 interesting points there, I think. I mean, it's easy to talk about the internet being a huge kind of democratising force that allows everyone to be a producer, but everybody to express themselves. Maybe it isn't actually that way. Maybe the commercial influences or the political influences in some areas on the internet will actually kind of override that in the long run. Steve?
And I'll say who I am this time, because I didn't last time. Steve Hollinghurst. I'm a researcher in evangelism to post-Christian culture with the Church on the Sheffield Centre, but also do spend a bit of time online in chat rooms, forums and things like that. I think there's a really interesting question going on here about how what happens online relates to offline. Because however much time any one of us spends online, it's dependent on our offline existence. The very fact we have to eat, sleep, etc., etc., etc. So there's always an interface between the online and the offline existence. And part of what I heard Mark saying earlier was that there is a real person there. And partly that is that real person exists offline. So there is always that interface going on. And I think we will always find we're hitting issues about how does offline and online relate to each other, simply because of that reality.
Okay, anybody want to take us in a different direction? Yeah, please, Mark, yes. And then we'll head up to the back there.
I think 2 issues which I see as related. One is, it sounds like a very complex at this stage in online church, of using the internet, but what's our heritage? I mean, we're in the shadow here of Durham Cathedral, we can sort of look back and see our link to the previous generations of Christians, and Christians have always made a claim to be part of something that's continuous in one sense. So what in 100 years' time will be continuous with what we're doing now? And I think the question that's related to that is the whole question of ownership of content, of copyright, and so on. So I've done a bit of work on myself. I noticed in some pixels that's been a continual issue. Who actually owns an online server? Who owns a blog entry? And how do the answers to those questions affect what you can actually do with that content, how many people can use that content, how that content can be reused, and how do current models of publishing, even liturgies, for example, within traditional Christian circles, map onto a world where everything is rippable, everything can be copied, and at the same time, stuff that isn't copyright-free is very difficult to use in an online environment.
Thanks. Can we head to the back? If you want to know more about copyright and ownership, Mark's just published a book about it.
Hi, I'm Eric Stoddard, a lecturer in practical theology at the University of St Andrews. I'm currently developing a postgraduate module on digital faith. I think there's an interesting conversation to be had on money and Christianity in digital space. Not because there's a simple correlation between throw money into cyberspace and you get recognition and you get attention, or simply that you can get on for very little money and have a huge impact. It doesn't work in that way. But I think there are lots of issues about who's putting money into the internet, into other digital experiences, what economic comeback are Christian groups looking for in terms of fundraising to support their own work or other missionary work. What are the economics of Christian involvement in digital space?
Thanks, Eric. It's very interesting. I mean, monetising the internet, is the expression that's used, is the big topic of conversation amongst web producers at the moment. I was at the Guardian media site about 12 months ago, and all day it was about the digital environment. All day long we were addressed by a succession of 30-year-old guys in sweatshirts and jeans, all multimillionaires, all made their money in the last 3 years on the internet, and all the discussion was about how do we monetize the internet, how do we extract revenue out of the digital environment. And really the only things that are extracting revenue out of the digital environment at the moment are gambling, pornography and advertising, as far as I understand it, and a certain amount of trading. Now, after a day of listening to all these guys talk about monetising the internet, an old guy who was sat just in front of me stood up. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and he said, I think we should ask what all of this stuff is doing to us as human beings. And it was interesting because the whole conference burst into applause, and it was kind of like everybody had wanted somebody to say that all day, but nobody had dared to say it. So the person who stood up in front of me and said it was Lord David Putnam, the film producer, who is very interested in the question of kind of values. I would be very keen for us to talk about questions of values without being naive about well, I mean, it involves discussing the kind of financial constraints that Eric raises for us. There's a lot of questions there. There will be more, and we'll add to that agenda as we go along. What I'll try to do is sort through some of that so that when we fall into conversation groups tomorrow morning, we will be able to have specific agendas for those groups. I'd like to change direction slightly now.